Welcome back to our next tutorial, and yes, today we are starting another series. We are going to be looking at HTML series. We are going to look at how do you develop your own website from scratch. Like, this series is targeting those that are beginners in software development, and always where we begin from is just simply HTML and CSS. So you need to first of all know that HTML is the one that gives us the user interface. Whatever application you have ever interacted with, whatever you're seeing there is HTML, basically, most for the web applications. So what you work with is the HTML. So today we are going to look at how do we then work with HTML. These are just simple basics of HTML so that you first understand, as we shall be now keep adding on that. We shall work on them till we reach the advanced level. So without wasting time, first thing first, what we do first is to create what we call a folder. So I need to create a folder here by simply right clicking, then I come to this option of create a folder. I'm going to name my folder as Apex website. So let's just name it as Apex website. Then after naming it as Apex website, the other thing we have to do next, now we are looking at the right steps of developing a website. Then from there, you just simply double click on it so that it opens. Once it opens, you need to add more other two folders inside that main folder called Apex website. So we need to come here and then we add another folder called the images, because later on we shall need the images. And then lastly, we shall now need to also go ahead and create another folder called the CSS. So you have seen we have created our main folder as Apex website. Inside the Apex website, we have gone ahead to create the images folder and then the CSS folder. Then after you're done with this, what you have to do next is simply to come up here and then write in CMD, enter. Then after you entering, then you're going to write the command code space dot. So write the simple command code space dot. Yes. After code space dot, it will open. So it's now opening our folder inside the VS Code. Now VS Code is the text environment that we use to develop our applications. For now, we are just using VS Code, but you're going to realize that some of others, if you do not want to use if you don't want to use a VS Code, you can as well use what we call the Sublime Text. So all these are text editors which we can use to develop our websites. Now, upon you entering this screen, as you're seeing this screen displaying at your end, what you need to do first is to create your first HTML file. And always you should note this. When you're developing your website, the first file to be created is known as the index.html. So when you hover around here, there are two tabs. There is this file tab first for new file, then this one is for the new folder. But since we want to create our new file, you're simply going to just simply click there and then you say index.html. Now look, you should ensure that everything you're writing is in small letters. Don't write things in their capital letters. Write them in small letters. So it is index.html, and this is our first what? This is our first file that we are going to create. So our first file to be created is known as index.html. Now the moment you create this index.html, now the next thing you have to do is to press your shift and 1. Yeah, you press shift and 1 to bring that exclamation mark and then click on enter. Now what we have done simply here is simply to call what we call the HTML skeleton. Now this is what we refer to the HTML skeleton. Now since now this video is for the beginners, I'm going to explain each in detail so that you can understand, but later in other coming videos I'll be a little bit fast, because I will have ensured that everything is now clear at your end. But since you're seeing this either for the first time or you need to understand, that's why I'm going to explain. Now the first thing first, on line 1, this is called a doc type HTML. This is now the first tag that we have, just simply to specify that this document file, doc type means document file, is for HTML. But the actual skeleton starts from line 2. So you can see that this is the opening tag of the skeleton, and it has its closing on line 11. So now you're going to realize that in learning HTML and CSS, For every opening tag, in most cases, it must have its closing. And for you to tell that this is the opening, this is the closing, by default, the opening tag, for example, if I might use HTML as a case scenario, it has this, if you can see it, but the closing must always have a forward slash somewhere. So whenever you see a forward slash onto a line, in most of the time that is a closing tag, with exceptions of the few that I will explain in the video. Now, HTML has got two parts or two sections. So we have the head section, which passes from line what? Let me even demarcate. Let me just say this is the head. Okay. Let me just say start of the head section. Yeah, start of the head section. Then I can highlight this. Then I press Ctrl forward slash. So what I was just simply doing, I wanted to write a comment. So I can comment this, and then I can bring the same comment below here to demarcate my lines. Now I can say this is end. Now the other one is the start, this is the end. So now let me first explain this. Now when you look at where I've demarcated, now this is the first section of your HTML skeleton. Now this can be called HTML skeleton or the HTML structure. Now you can see that this is the section number 1. Now this section, there are things that we need to know which are indicated into that section. By default, the framework or the template gives us these 3, which comes by default. Those are the metas and then the titles. But along here, we can add more other things. For example, we can add CSS there. So we can add CSS there. We shall see in the coming video why we need the CSS. And then maybe in case you have JavaScript, but we can see also JavaScript can either go up or down, but it's recommended to be down. I'll explain. But for now, just know, we come always here and we change the title based on the website that you're developing. For example, since right now we are developing a website for Apex, so we are going to change this one instead of document, and we can say this is Apex website. Yeah. So we are doing maybe for the Apex website. You can see, so already we have this. So that's the only thing that we do in the head section. So we have the head section, and after the head section, the other section that we have is what we call the body section. So I'm also going to demarcate the body section by saying that this is the start of the body section. So I'm going to say this is the start of the body section. Then I highlight this, Ctrl forward slash. Then I can simply just copy this, Ctrl C, and then I put it down. Yeah. So as developers, as those that we are learning development for the first time, you should know that it is always important to comment. To comment your code is just to put some description of what you're doing, so that maybe in the nearby future when you come back you can easily understand your code. So that's why we have something like this. So as I was saying, we have two sections. We have the body section and the head section. So this is where we are going to be working from. Now this other that you're seeing is just the closing for this. It just demarcates, it shows boundaries where you must work from. So whatever we are doing, we are going to be working from inside here. Yeah. So that's what we have done. We have looked at the head section, which handles only the metas, the CSS, and the titles. And now the rest of the content that you see, for example, if I might visit my website here, and let's say I open, let's say Apex as our official website. Oh wow. I don't have internet. Okay. So what I'm saying, whatever you see here, for example, this content here, the content you're seeing around here is what we're going to be putting here inside this. So whatever I want to see on the page must be declared in the body. Make sure you're working within, inside, in between here. Don't work outside here. So we're going to first work with the first tag. And there are a number of tags in HTML. For example, we have the heading tags. And headings are represented by H and a certain number. So we have, let's say, H1, and we can say this is our website. Yeah, let's just say this is our website. So I've used the H1. You just press H1 and click on tab, and then you say this is our website. So I want to see this content onto the page. How do I view that? I'm going to just minimize this, and I come here. Yeah, inside this, you go back. Always what you do, just go back to your desktop, look for your folder, the one that you have created, come here, make sure that you have saved. Before you go there, make sure Ctrl S, make sure you have saved. After saving, come back here and then double click on this. When you double click and it opens, you see that it's showing this is our website. Then when I come back here, I'm going to proceed. I can simply also use H2 and I see. Remember, these H's, they move from H2 up to H6. So let me say this is another line. Let's say this is another line. Yeah. Then you save and then go back and refresh again. You say this is another line. Now what shows, okay, the logic here, as you proceed, it keeps on reducing the size. If I can use H3 and I say Mosh is good, well, Mosh is good here, then I save. When I refresh, so I'll see I'll have something like that. Meaning from H1 to H2 they keep on reducing. So what we recommend as engineers, as developers, what we recommend always is to use always H2 up to H4. Don't go beyond and use H5 and H6, but also H1 is too big. Yeah, so it's always either H2 or H3 and H4. Those two, they're a little bit okay. So we are done with the first one. Now we have looked at that the first tag we can work with is the H, which represents the heading. Then there is another tag called the P tag. You just write P and click on the tab key. When you click on tab key, it will auto-complete for you. You can see that we have the opening and the closing. We have the opening tag and the closing tag. Now here in the H2, still rather in the P, we can also write something. This is a beautiful website. Yeah. Now there is a difference between a paragraph and a heading. If you can see closely, the headings are a little bit dark as compared to the paragraph. So the paragraph, just the way you have been using your Word, if you have ever used your Microsoft packages, and that's the Word has what called the title or the heading and then the body. The body is like the description or the paragraph where you write. So even website, it is just that logic. You just need to know that we have a number of tags. So in our first tutorial, I want you to just get familiar to the coding and then the tools, yeah, the tags. Then later on we shall now go and develop a real website. Yeah. Now for now we are just learning about the tags. Then the other tag we have another tag which can be like a button. There is something called a button, and I can say maybe button submit, or let me say button register. Yeah. I can have a button called register. It's also tag. Yeah. Then when I save this and I come back to refresh, I have this button called register. You see, I can still go back and I have another tag called input. There's another tag called input. All these tags that I'm mentioning here are going to be very useful as we shall be developing now a real world website, as we shall be developing a real website. So when I say this and I hit refresh, you can see I have a button and I have here I can even write something. Yeah. So this is what we call the input tag. Yeah. I can simply come inside, see in the input tag, and I put something called a placeholder, and I can say enter your name. Now there's something called a placeholder, as you can see. Let me first refresh and you say difference. Now before we added this, we couldn't tell whatever the user wanted me to enter here, but at least when I put a placeholder here, it means that they are asking me enter your name. So I can know that they want my name here, let's say Mosh, but as I'm writing, you can see that the other enter your name thing has disappeared. Why? Because here it is just a placeholder. It's like just trying to help person to know that here they are expecting, let's say, the name. Then I can proceed. There are other tags. For example, there is a tag called the A tag, or we call it the anchor tag, but you can call it A tag, and then you come in between it and then you can say home. For example, here this tag, it's called the anchor tag or the A tag, and then you can come back here to refresh. Then you can see. So now these ones are going to be very useful. We shall see where we use them, but you can add as many as you want. You can even add another anchor tag. And then you add this one as about. Yeah, you add another anchor tag, you call it about, then you come back to refresh. You see we have home, we have about. Yeah, so you can add as many as you want. Then there is another tag called the nav tag. Yeah, for this one we are not going to add anything in between it, but just know that there is a tag called nav. We are going to use it somewhere when we shall be developing our application. Then there is another tag also called the section. Now also this one we're not going to write anything it between. Okay, anyway, if I can explain now, This section and nav, in between them, that's where we're going to be putting other tags. But for now, just know that they exist. There is what we call a section tag. This one is used to demarcate sections in the website. So if we don't call it section, they can as well be called the div. They are what we call the division. So there's another tag called the div. So we have looked at the nav, the section, the div. So just be familiar with these ones, because as later on we shall be using them and you need to understand them. Then there is another tag called the footer. Yeah, there is another tag. This one is used when you want to create a footer. Okay, we shall see what a footer is, but a footer is that bottom thing which is on your website. So there is a tag called the footer. Then there is another tag called address. There are quite many. I'm still listing them. Just I'm trying to ensure that you have a feel, you get to understand what HTML is all about. So it's just about you knowing the tags and all that stuff. Okay. Then there is another tag, if not address. Address is just used at the contact page if you want to put the address. Yeah. So there is that one. So you can call the address. Then there is another tag called the BR tag. This one, it's equivalent to as you entering. If you want to go on the next line, or if you want to separate the content, use what we call the BR tag. Now for it does not have what we call the closing tag. There are some tags in development or in HTML which are known as the self-closing tags. What does that mean? It means that they can close themselves. Okay, they do not need a closing tag. They are self-closing. For example, the BR tag is one of them, and also this input tag. You can see when we wrote input, we didn't have its closing. It is just self-closing. There is another one called the HR tag. This one is also self-closing, but it just puts a line, an underline like that. That's what we call a self-closing tag. There are other tags still that we can also talk about. There is what we call a span tag. We shall see when to use the span tag. We have quite many. There is what we call the strong tag. Yeah, there is a strong tag. That one helps us to bold. If you want to make sure that the word, you want to put emphasis on a word, you can use the word strong. Then there is another one called strike. Yeah, strike, if you want to put a line, like the way you could cross out, maybe you have made an error, you want to say this work is omitted, and then you cross out that line. Instead, in development, we call it the strike. Yeah, all those are tags. There's another tag called the table tag. Now this one is used when you want to create a table. Yeah, like you have maybe names, you want to display them. There is something called the table. So there's a tag called a table. There's another tag called a form. There's another tag called a form. Yeah. So still also this tag called form is very useful because we shall have a number of submissions, and for whatever data you want to submit to the backend, it has to pass through the form. So we have other things like maybe the text areas. Now this one is useful if you're creating a number. Okay, you want to create a field, for example. By default, this one is a little bit small. So if I want to add another field, okay, if I happen to save this and I refresh, let me first show you some. Now you see this is the line, the HR, but there is this one which is called the text area. Now some of others that you don't see, it's because they are not used. I was just putting them there so that you can understand that they exist. But if we saved and we checked here the website, it brought what we call, this is the text area. This one is bigger than this, meaning here you're passing more description than here. Here you could be just picking the name, the email, the phone number, blah blah blah. So like that. So there are quite many. There is what we call a field set. There is also that whatever called the field set. Yeah, there are many. There is what we call the marquee. This one, there is another one called marquee. We shall see. The marquee, maybe if you have a word you want it to move, you can use this marquee, and then you when you refresh, you see something which is coming from this side going. That's called a marquee. Yeah, it moves like that. Yeah, as you can see, that's a marquee. Then we have, okay, there are quite many. There's what we call the options. Yeah, if you have something like that you want to pass. Okay, there's something. Okay, before the options, there's what we call the ordered and unordered list. So I can begin with the unordered list and then I pass this. This is the unordered list. I can say maybe this is mangoes. I can pass another one as option still. I say maybe these are onions. So when I save this and I hit refresh, so we have this ordered list and unordered list. Then there is, okay, this is one of the category of the list. This is unordered. Then there is also that one which is ordered, which is OL to mean ordered, and I can still pass the same, and just note the difference. Yeah, there is one which is ordered and then the other one which is unordered. So I think they have to bring 1 and 2, but it's not bringing them. Oh wow, we don't pass them here, we pass them as values. Values. Oh, no, it's the same thing. It's not going to change anything. It's okay. Maybe let me say this is 1 and then this is 2. Okay. Okay, so an ordered and ordered list, there are quite many. So I was just simply showing you. Now you could see that whatever I've been writing, whatever I wanted to display the other side, I had to write it inside these brackets. Yeah, when you're writing anything, make sure you don't write outside the brackets. Yeah, ensure that you're writing within your brackets. So now in this tutorial, what you have just made, I've ensured that I'm giving you a look, a feel of what HTML tags looks like. So you just need to read more about them, be familiar with them, so that now in the next tutorial I'll be now developing a real website. Like, I need you, by the time you come to see a real website, whenever I talk about the nav tag, whenever I talk about the section tag, the div tag, the address tag, you know about it. So that's why we shall even do the CSS. So we shall be now developing a real project step by step, but for now I just wanted us to look at the basics of HTML, which we have just looked at. Yes, thank you so much. Let's catch up in the next video.